Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
So the heat wave is here. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jade Hindman in for Maya Trabolsi. In the coming 5 days, high temperatures in San Diego are expected to be in the mid-90s in El Cajon, over 100 degrees there. KPBS reporter Thomas Fudge looks at the heat and how people who work outdoors need to be protected.
The soaring temperatures in San Diego this week are a threat to a lot of people, but those who must make their living outdoors in the heat are in a special class. Like the 8-person road crew digging a trench to remove and replace a water line downtown. Vince Farron, the foreman, said they were, of course, dealing with the heat.
We got to keep going no matter what. We don't really get a choice to stop, so like I said, we keep coolers on the truck, keep the guys cool, waters, stuff like that. We have a shade, and then take breaks when we can, try and stay cool.
Kevin Garrity is chief of operations for San Diego Gas and Electric. He says being indoors isn't always a better option for their workers.
And believe it or not, one of the hottest environments we can deal with is having to come inside a customer's home and then having to go up into their attics to actually verify that things are safe for use, their appliances, their heaters, things like that. And so we can experience everything from 120 degrees outside in Borrego, but some of the attics that our teams may have to go into are even hotter than that.
Cal OSHA requires California employers to provide accessible shade and water when temperatures exceed 80 degrees. They're supposed to have an emergency response plan and training for workers and supervisors. Garrity says safety starts with training at SDG&E. Hydration is something you have to get ahead of, he says, not catch up with.
And then when events like this happen, it's each and every morning having that discussion. We expect longer breaks, find shade. If you can't find shade, then bring shade.
And be able to recognize the signs of heat stress in someone. Garrity also credits the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, which represents their crews, for their focus on safety. In downtown San Diego, some people were enjoying the views and the bay. Farron's road crew did bring a shade tarp for their breaks. He added, in terms of heat, he's seen worse.
We're used to working in East County. We've been in East County for the last 10 years during the summers. So this is the first summer we've been down here at the beach, so it's nice for us.
Next week, temperatures in San Diego County are expected to return to near normal. High temperatures this week in the Imperial Valley could be up to 118 degrees. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
The big story is going to be the heat. Though tonight we're dropping down to lows right around 70. We do still have a few low clouds hanging on, but that marine layer getting shallower and shallower here throughout the next few days. So the low clouds going to be overall pretty patchy, though the big story, like we just mentioned, is going to be the heat. We'll tell you how hot temperatures get across the region coming up.
Workers at the Hilton San Diego Bayfront are on strike for a 4th day today. Their contract with the hotel expired on Sunday. Union President Bridget Browning says they're still waiting on a wage proposal from Hilton's management.
They seem unwilling to even have discussions with us, which we feel is really disrespectful. It's really, the workers are buckling down and they're ready to stay out until we win this contract.
And the union is asking for a $5 annual increase to workers' hourly wages for the next 3 years. They say staffing cuts made during the pandemic have left remaining staff with heavier workloads. Hotel management has not responded to requests for comment. A Hilton spokesperson said yesterday that the company is committed to negotiating in good faith. San Diego is one step closer to expanding its downtown convention center. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says a judge has validated the project's funding plan.
For well over a decade, San Diego has been trying to expand the convention center. Supporters say the upgrades and additional space will bring in more tourism dollars to the local economy. In March 2020, more than 65% of San Diego voters said yes to Measure C, which would raise the city's hotel room tax to fund the convention center expansion. It would also help pay for road repair and homeless services. But the measure has been stuck in limbo after opponents sued. They argue Measure C required a 2/3 majority. A San Diego judge last week ruled against them. Michael Colantuno is the attorney for the San Diego Tourism Authority. He says the convention center is overdue for an upgrade.
It isn't as big, isn't as flexible as industry leaders think it needs to be to compete for the conventions you're looking for, and even to keep the ones you've got. Like the Comic-Con convention, which is a big deal in San Diego. Keeping that may mean giving them better facilities than we can now offer.
The plaintiffs in the case told KPBS they're planning an appeal. A ruling from the appellate court could be the final word on Measure C, or the case could be taken up by the California Supreme Court. Either way, the convention center expansion is still several years away from breaking ground. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
With polls showing Vice President Kamala Harris closing the gap on former President Donald Trump's advantage when it comes to handling the economy, Harris unveiled the next piece of her economic agenda today. Julia Binbrook has details.
Vice President Kamala Harris revealing a new wave of economic goals in New Hampshire Wednesday.
My vision of an opportunity economy is one where everyone can compete and have a real chance to succeed.
Her proposals include expanding small business tax deduction for startup expenses, cutting the red tape for small business owners, and setting a goal of 25 million new small business applications in her first term.
I believe America's small businesses are an essential foundation to our entire economy. Think about it. Think about it. Small businesses in our country employ half of all private sector workers.
New polling shows that economic issues remain the top concern for voters in battleground states. Trump is the more trusted candidate when it comes to the economy, but Harris trails by smaller margins than President Joe Biden.
The election's coming up, and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that they can't buy groceries because they don't have enough money to buy groceries.
Most of the candidates' major economic proposals would require congressional approval.
KPBS's presidential election coverage continues. We sat down with North County Congressman Mike Levan to ask his thoughts on this unprecedented presidential race. We'll hear more in just a few minutes on that. The officer hurt in the deadly crash in Claremont Mesa is out of the hospital and back home with his family tonight. Officer Zach Martinez received a hero's exit from his fellow officers as he was wheeled out of UCSD Burn Center. He and Officer Austin Machetar responded to a high-speed chase last Monday involving a 16-year-old driver who then slammed into their patrol car. San Diego Police Chief Scott Wall says Martinez has a long road to recovery.
The first officer that responded to him was also an EMT. And in his words, he thought he was dead. From that moment, the care, the love, and the support that has been surrounding Officer Martinez, and by the grace of God, we're very grateful that he's going home today.
And Officer Austin Machetar and the 16-year-old driver Edgar Giovanni Oviedo died in the crash. The medical director told our media partner KGTV it's unclear how long it will take Martinez to fully recover. A key inflation gauge out today could further push the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates this month, but a spending showdown on the Hill risks another government shutdown. Laura Aguirre has more.
The time has come for policy to adjust. The timing and pace of rate cuts will depend on incoming data.
That was the chair of the Federal Reserve in late August. Now another key inflation gauge is out as consumers await a much anticipated interest rate cut this month. The Labor Department's July jobs report shows available openings down from June by about 240,000, the lowest point since January of 2021, and well below economists' expectation of just over 8 million jobs. July's report also shows the number of people voluntarily quitting their jobs held steady from June, still around 3.2 million. And hiring actually picked up by about 270,000 over the previous month. The relatively level labor market, along with July's consumer price index having cooled to just under 3% year over year, may not only cement a rate cut when the Fed meets 2 weeks from now, but it may mean a deeper cut than the Fed initially planned, which would ease some prices for consumers like mortgages, car loans, and credit purchases.
The core issues facing the American people are the cost of food and housing.
In America, it's hard to have hope if you don't have a home.
While there appears to be bipartisan understanding of what consumers need, the immediate focus for lawmakers is keeping the government running. They'll return to the Hill next week, and they'll have just 13 days to agree on a path forward before the current federal budget runs out September 30th, risking a possible pause in critical government services for millions of Americans. I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
National City is taking another look at banning homeless encampments. South Bay reporter Corey Suzuki says it's the latest city to consider a crackdown following a Supreme Court ruling this summer.
So far, National City has taken a more gentle approach to homelessness, focusing on outreach and housing programs. Back in April, officials voted against an encampment ban, arguing that it wouldn't address the root causes of the crisis and citing potential legal challenges. But the Supreme Court's recent decision in Grants Pass v. Johnson has changed that calculation. The court overturned certain legal protections for unhoused people and gave cities broad power to fine and arrest people for sleeping in public. Governor Gavin Newsom has also taken a forceful stance in recent months, ordering some state agencies to clear unhoused people off of state land and encouraging local governments to do the same. At a city council meeting this week, National City Mayor Ron Morrison said those two factors prompted them to reconsider a local encampment law.
The Supreme Court has spoken, the state has spoken, our shelter is open. It's time for us to avail ourselves of that before we get to be the brunt of everything here in this region.
Still, other officials said the city should continue its outreach efforts and support programs.
I want to make it clear that I do expect to see this tool narrowly applied. Again, let's not forget the compassionate approach that we have to date. And now that we do have this tool, let's not forget that we're dealing with people.
The City Council plans to make a final decision on the proposed ban later this month. Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
And the brand new sports and entertainment hub is getting ready to open its doors in Oceanside. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne gives us a sneak peek at the new Frontwave Arena.
We're here at the new Frontwave Arena in Oceanside, and as you can see, construction has moved along very quickly. Now, the last time we were here was back in December, where seats weren't installed yet, signage wasn't up, but as you can see, things have moved along, and they've moved along very quickly.
This is a homegrown project, and it's really for the community, and we can't wait for people to come and visit and see what we have going on here and what it's going to add to, not only Oceanside, but North County, San Diego.
Josh Elias is the CEO of Frontwave Arena, a 7,500 capacity arena in Oceanside's El Corazon Park that will host sporting and entertainment events.
We really want to get this open and get people inside to really see what we've created. I mean, it really is amazing when you think about how we paid attention to the acoustics and the AV, obviously the food, but the premium services, our outdoor plaza, and how it all just ties together to create an experience.
Frontwave Arena will be home to the San Diego Sockers and the San Diego Clippers, an experience that Elias thinks will grow the sports fan base and talent.
Really, the big thing here is having those players in the community to build a fan base, not only for what we're doing here for San Diego Clippers, but to watch these players develop into an NBA talent and then watch them on the big stage.
But bigger events and a new arena bring traffic concerns, which Elias says they've kept top of mind.
capacity is 7,500, but that doesn't mean that every show is going to be 7,500. A lot of our stuff will be 5,000, 6,000. We have a lot of family type of events, which requires less cars per person. But we also have the experience here with the SoCal Sports Complex, already in operation, has been for many, many years. And, you know, they see 10,000 people in a day. We'll never see 10,000 people in a day. So we feel very good about our traffic plan and our ability to work together with our partners at SoCal, as well as the Aquatic Center and the City of Oceanside.
Bringing a taste of North County was also key in the development of the arena. Eateries will include local vendors, and shows will feature local talent.
You know, what are the shows that we're going to, program to the venue? And then you think about the food and the local craft eateries that we're bringing in here and creating a destination for culinary.
Elias says they have partnerships with the Belly Up and Cardiff's Seaside Market.
And while the Olympic season has wrapped up, the Olympics continue here with Simone Biles breaking the arena floor on September 16th and 17th with the Gold Over America tour. And now Frontwave Arena is having their grand opening concert with the band Cake on October 5th. And there's a full lineup of events where tickets can already be purchased on their website. Reporting in Oceanside, Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
The final dash to Election Day ramps up this week as part of our ongoing conversations with San Diego's congressional delegation about democracy. KPBS's Amitha Sharma spoke with Democratic Congressman Mike Levan. He talked first about why Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz are the right people for the ticket.
We in California know Kamala Harris's legacy of service to our state as Attorney General, as Senator, and now as Vice President. And we're proud of her as our first ever Democratic nominee from California. But what's exciting to me about Governor Walz is he came from a very difficult congressional district. And so he was a red to blue candidate for Congress. He then was a frontline member of Congress in one of the most competitive districts anywhere in the country, in Minnesota. And he also had a great legacy of service as governor of Minnesota. And again, what we have seen in terms of the numbers on the ground, the people who are excited to knock on doors, make calls, it's really reminiscent to me of 2008 and what we saw when Barack Obama was running. And if we can just continue with that excitement, with that enthusiasm over these next 9 or 10 weeks, I think we're going to be in very good shape come November.
So much has been said about democracy being on the line in the November presidential election. A recent Gallup poll, I think the Gallup poll was from January of this year, showed that just 28% of Americans believe that democracy is working for them, compared to 35% after January 6, 2021. How do you view those numbers?
It tells me that we have a lot of work to do, and my hope is that everyone in time will understand that they have agency in the democratic process. This democracy is only good as we all make it. For me, it's about information, education, and then really community building as best as we can, listening to our neighbors, trying to understand their viewpoints, and knowing we're not going to agree on everything all the time, but also knowing that we're all Americans, and again, we all are participants in this process. But people have become very disenchanted. And if you really just follow the narrative these last number of years, and particularly if you're just watching cable news, or again, God help you if you're just getting your news on social media, you're seeing a very bleak and dark picture. And of course, I would say that Donald Trump was not the cause, but he's certainly been an accelerant of a lot of the embrace of anti-democratic principles, at least anti-democratic as we historically have known them in the United States. So I am deeply concerned, and I'm going to do everything I can as one member out of 435 in the House of Representatives to try to stand up for our institutions, stand up for the rule of law, and ultimately try to work with young people in particular to ensure that they're getting civically engaged.
Let's talk about Project 2025, a blueprint to implement right-wing policies. Many people say a pathway to authoritarianism. How informed do you think people are about exactly what Project 2025 entails?
Well, I think people are hearing more and more about it as time goes on. I mean, if it were up to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, no one would have heard of it ever. but I think it was really important for the American people to understand what's been being planned behind the scenes by the Heritage Foundation and by people that are directly in Trump and Vance's network. It is a very lengthy document. It's 900 pages long, so it's tough for people to digest, but it has some truly bizarre and extreme ideas on everything from limiting reproductive freedom to undermining education. You name it. I'm basically empowering the wealthy and well-connected at the expense of everyone else. And if allowed to take root in the fabric of our institutions, it would, I think, lead to irreparable harm.
Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington recently published a report that showed 35 county election officials have refused to certify elections since 2020 and remain in positions to do so. How equipped is this system to deal with the potential chaos if that happens again?
The reality is that I think you have far too many people at those lower level positions who are really just sycophants for Donald Trump. My good news, I guess, to the extent is that the secretaries of state themselves from these swing states, there are really only about 7 swing states, I think most of them are committed to a full, free and fair election.
Congressman, you're out there campaigning for re-election. What are constituents saying to you about the November presidential election?
Well, people are enthused across the board, and there was a big enthusiasm gap, I will tell you, as recently as a few months ago. We know that many Republicans are very excited to vote for Donald Trump. On our side of the aisle, I can tell you that today, as things stand in our district, Democrats are just as excited to vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and no party preference voters are also now very excited to vote, and they were completely unenthusiastic in many cases, and now are very enthusiastic to vote.
Congressman Levan, thank you so much for speaking to me today.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
It's been a sizzling summer across a lot of the West. In fact, we're ranking #1 when it comes to our historic average summer temperature in areas like Phoenix, Las Vegas, even Tucson. Boise coming in second and Flagstaff first. It's been a pretty hot summer. Now we're talking about things heating up even more across Southern California. It's going to be some dangerous heat this week with our first weather headline, though we are tracking more monsoonal moisture to start to push back in as we head into the weekend. That is going to bring temperatures down slightly. It's still going to be quite hot here, even leading into Saturday, though with that we could even see a few isolated chances for showers, mostly there across the mountainous terrain. Though that marine layer becoming shallower, so those low clouds becoming more patchy and really confined closer towards the coast. Lows 65 Oceanside, Ramona 65, San Diego dropping off to a low around 70. Borrego Springs flirting with 80 here tonight. High pressure still large and in charge. It maintains its grip and it's not letting go across the west. Hot air continues to expand even further north. It's not just the southwest that's heating up, it's also the northwest with those daily record highs challenged and of course that risk of heat related illnesses. We aren't really going to see too much rain or even too many clouds here over the next few days, so that sun blazing down, and with that paired with the extreme temperatures, you're going to want to take care of yourself in the extreme heat. We do have excessive heat warnings in effect here for inland areas pushing through the deserts, Coachella Valley, and even through the mountains. And we have a heat advisory now that's extended along the coast. This is going to go through Friday night. Highs back into the triple digits in areas like Ramona, Escondido, Borrego Springs at 114, even the coast flirting with a 90 in a few areas. Here on Thursday, we'll hit a high of 88 or 89 there along the coast. Plenty of sunshine. We're staying in the upper 80s there. Though we will start to come down slightly for the weekend, though that humidity does start to creep up closer towards the coast. Hot, hot, hot. Further inland, highs in the triple digits. Still flirting there by Saturday and Sunday. We're really not dropping too much, but you will note the slight cool down as we head into next week. Highs even in the mountains going to be in the 80s, upper 70s, and then we come down to the low 70s here for most of the weekend. Though if you're in the deserts, highs in the triple digit teens, plenty of sunshine. Again, stay hydrated with water and take plenty of cooling breaks. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Bree Guy.
If you're looking for a good place to beat this week's heat, you can stop by any designated cool zone across the county. Call 211 or visit coolzones.org for a full list of locations. You can also find free transportation to a cool zone near you. NASA says the Boeing Starliner spacecraft will return to Earth this weekend, about 3 months overdue. But the capsule's 2 astronauts have a different itinerary. Karen Caffey has details.
NASA on Wednesday detailing the plan to bring the beleaguered Boeing Starliner space capsule back to Earth without its 2-person crew.
Today, the Boeing team powered on Starliner systems and performed a variety of pre-undock activities, both on the systems and crew activities to get the capsule ready to come home. Tomorrow, Butch and Sunny will review procedures as they will be the ones closing the hatches between Starliner and the space station.
Just after 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, Starliner is scheduled to undock from the International Space Station, leaving astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams in space as the capsule tracks for an early Saturday arrival.
This will dip Starliner's orbit into our atmosphere and will allow it to land at White Sands, New Mexico, just after midnight Eastern.
The Starliner carried Williams and Wilmore to the International Space Station on June 5th. The plan was for the 2 astronauts to return home in about a week, but the Starliner suffered setbacks with helium leaks and 5 of its 28 thrusters stopped working. After extensive discussion, NASA ultimately decided to bring Starliner back to Earth without the crew on board, but expressed confidence Wednesday that the capsule itself can land.
We have requirements for protecting the public as well, and so we have confidence in the thrusters. We went and looked at the thruster performance.
The astronauts will fly home with the crew of a SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule that was already slated to make an ISS routine mission. Their return expected early next year. In Washington, I'm Karen Cafa.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jade Hindman. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.